Yes, we are. Okay. We'll call the Sacramento Housing and Redevelopment Commission of October 19th to order. I'll start off with the roll call, please.
Chair Morgan,
I'm here.
Vice Chair Amanfor,
I'm here.
Commissioner Duncan,
Here.
Commissioner Griffin is absent, Commissioner Nunley,
Here.
Commissioner Osmany,
Here.
Commissioner Ramos,
Here.
Commissioner Ross, Commissioner Stajabu, Commissioner Starks,
Yes.
and Commissioner Wu. Okay,
I believe we have a quorum.
yes we do.
So we're going to request all staff and participants, mute your microphones when you're not speaking. And due to using Zoom, I will call for comments from each member as the item is heard. And if you have a question during the presentation, please use the raise hands feature. Okay, take us to public comment.
Persons wishing to address the commission on subjects not on the agenda but within the jurisdiction of the commission may do so at this time. The commission cannot discuss or take action on matters not on the agenda for this meeting. Members of the public with questions are encouraged to contact staff before or after the meeting. To speak on an agenda item, please use the raise your hand feature or press *9 on your phone. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes per item. And I am showing no hands raised.
Okay. So we'll move on to consent. We have a couple items on consent. We have one item on consent. I'll take a motion and second.
All right. So move to approve the consent.
I will second it.
All right, roll call. Chair Morgan,
Yes.
Vice Chair Amanfor,
Yes.
Commissioner Duncan,
Aye.
Commissioner Nunley,
Aye.
Commissioner Osmany,
Aye.
Commissioner Ramos,
Aye.
Commissioner Starks.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
We'll take us to business and discussion items. The first one being item 2, the 2023 and subsequent years authorization for solicitation, award, and approval of annual expenditure caps per contract caps of routine services and procurement protest policy updates.
All right, we have Jim here.
Yes. Jim Shields, our Deputy Executive Director, is going to do the presentation.
Good afternoon, Chair Morgan and members of the Commission. Jim Shields, Deputy Executive Director for Administration. And before you is a staff report that the Procurement Services Department brings forward to you each year, recommending the adoption of the resolution authorizing the Executive Director or designee to solicit competitive bids and proposals, and award and execute contracts for routine and recurring services for various agency operations. The report also recommends changing the agency's protest policy from 10 days to 5 days. The agency utilizes approximately 70 routine reoccurring services. Roughly half of them are maintaining services for our properties. Other services used range from licensing agreements for the various IT programs we use, outside legal services, architectural services, and other professional services. The services in attachment 3 of this staff report are those which the Executive Director's authorization expires at the end of this year, 2022. And we intend to solicit for these services in 2023. And at this time, I'd like to bring to your attention that earlier today, the clerk sent you a letter with an amended Exhibit A. We had inadvertently left one of the services off, which is the hazardous materials abatement service. And so at this time, I'd like to read into the record that we're adding hazardous materials abatement services for annual expenditure caps of $1 million per contract, and the maximum length of contract would be up to 5 years. So thank you. Continuing with the presentation, if the length of any contract is greater than 1 year, the resolution authorizes the executive director to contract for each subsequent year up to the annual dollar amount listed, with a maximum of 5 years for any specific service. Funds for the approved services will be budgeted in the requesting department's operating or project budgets. The protest policy's current protest period length can be extended more than 20 days currently. With this process change, we can reduce the process time by half and aid in project timeliness and increase efficiencies. Attachment 4 shows the change to the policy. This concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions you may have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim. Questions of commissioners or comments? Seeing none. Is there any public? Oh.
Cecile has her hand raised.
I'm sorry, I missed you, Cecile, somehow. Go ahead.
I think it blended in with my background. I noticed on the, you sent a red line version of this, and it talked about some of the things. I assume all of this is standard per the latest revisions that are allowed in the state code?
Yes, it is. Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And the only other question that I had on that, because I noticed one of them is you're no longer going to be sending that notice of intent to award to every single person, whoever put in a bid, as opposed to if there was a protest or something like that. And I assume that's going to save a lot of time because you don't have to send out multiple things.
Well, we do let them know that they did not receive it. We email them, but when we officially announce to the person that's been awarded the contract, we send it both written and email. So, but we do let them know that they did not receive it, though.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And then the only other question that I had, the one sheet that listed all of the different services, I assume this is the one that you had to add the hazardous materials to.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. I thought in years past that this list was a little longer.
It has been, but these are the only ones that are come up for renewal this year. So some years there are less, some years there are more.
Okay. All right. Those were my two questions. That's it.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Carefully looking for hands up this time. Okay, I don't see any. Was there any public comment?
I'm seeing none.
Okay. Okay, I will take a motion.
I will make a motion to approve the resolution.
All right, and a second.
I'll second it.
Motion by Nunley, second by Duncan.
Okay, and do roll call. Chair Morgan,
Aye.
Vice Chair Manfor,
Aye.
Commissioner Duncan,
Aye.
Commissioner Nunley,
Aye.
Commissioner Osmany,
Aye.
Commissioner Ramos,
Aye.
Commissioner Ross,
Aye.
and Commissioner Starks.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, next we have
Thank you.
items 3 and 4, Sacramento Housing and Redevelopment Agency proposed budget and budget report to the commission.
So those are items 3 and 4 that we're taking together. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So we are here to give the final presentation. I know that you've had an opportunity to hear from our staff in the various different departments. So Susanna Jackson is going to, our CFO is going to give the financial overview, and then I will, she'll turn it over to me. I'll try not to repeat so much of what you've already heard, but also giving you a perspective in terms of, housing at the national as well as state level and then locally, how all of these projects play out. So with that, I'm going to turn it on over to Susie.
So good afternoon, Chair Morgan and Commissioners. My name is Susanna Jackson. I am the Chief Financial Officer here at SHRA. And after many months and weeks of you seeing presentations from various people here at the agency, I am happy to be here to present to you the 2023 budget. A lot of work and time goes into this budget, so I definitely would like to thank everyone at this agency who had a hand in it, along with our finance staff who are behind the scenes and don't get that kind of praise enough. So I want to thank them as well. So this 2023 budget, I don't know if you can share the screen.
I'm not doing my job.
So the 2023 budget, it follows the same format as previously submitted budgets that have won awards for both the California Society of Municipal Finance Officers, as well as the Government Finance Officers Association. This budget runs January through December and incorporates the activities of the housing authorities of the city and the county of Sacramento, which includes various federal entitlement funds, local housing funds administered by the agency for the city and the county of Sacramento. The total new estimated resources for 2023 is $295.4 million. Approximately 69% of our revenues is from federal sources. These programs include the Housing Choice Voucher Program, the Public Housing Program, Capital Fund, CDBG, Home, Shelter Plus Care, Emergency Solutions Grant, and HOPWA, just to name a few. On the city side, or on the state side, it's approximately 31% of our revenues come from the state and local funds for $92.7 million. As you can see, the majority of the funds come from the federal level, which is why it's so important, as Lachelle was saying, that we really keep our eye on the pending legislation at the federal level. So where will our money be used for 2023? So this slide shows, as mentioned, so our total expenditures is estimated at $340.1 million. So this is broken up into various categories, such as the Housing Assistant Payments, or HAP, as we name it here, $154.6 million. Capital projects are estimated to come in at $89.4 million. Salaries and benefits at $42. Services and supplies at $26 million. Public services at $9.7, and debt service at about $2.2 million. So here is the multi-year budget comparison. The total budget, again, $340.1 million. In total, the estimated expenditures are going to decrease, we estimate, next year by about a total of $7 million from prior year. This is mostly due to the anticipated decrease of the emergency assistance rental program that we have here at SHRA. We anticipate that winding down in 2023. We do see an increase in public services, as well as the HAP payments that will offset that 76% difference as that you see for the emergency rental assistance program, for a total net difference of $7 million. So this slide, we're going to just recap briefly the HCB HAP payments. So this slide represents the housing assistant payments funding, which is approximately, it was $115 million in 2020 and increased yearly to an estimate of $142.8 million for next year. So this estimate was based on the proposed increase in lease up. Really, we're putting a lot of effort to make sure that we can lease up as quickly as possible. And this also is based off of the federal, of course, everything comes from the federal government when it comes to the HAP payments. So they have allocated at this point, an estimated $2 billion extra to this fund nationwide. So we are anticipating an increase. So this this slide, looking at the public housing for the city and the county, illustrates the historical revenue trends of the public housing program. So you can see 2021, there was an increase. It was a good year at 21.6 million. This was combined for both city and county. There was about a $2 million increase funding. It's mostly due to the CARES Act funds that came through to the agency. But as you can see, we anticipate smaller amounts in 2022 and 23. Due to the rental assistance demonstration program, as we work to revitalize our public housing infrastructure and really moving them over to the tax credit properties through our nonprofit, you'll see these revenues continue to decrease as it is based on the number of units in the public housing program. So this concludes my portion of the presentation, and we will get Michelle.
Okay, so we're kind of queuing up my part of the presentation. I'll go ahead and get started. So good afternoon. I'm Michelle Dozier, the Executive Director here at SHRA. And I, like Susie, would like to say thank you to the staff who worked really, really hard. We began the budget process somewhere around May or something of this year. It takes a lot of effort for us to pull together all of the information, but it does all come together, and you're hearing the culmination of all of those things today. So I'm going to share the kind of the big picture, what's happening at the federal level and the state level in terms of affordable housing, and then also some of the highlights, some of which you have seen in some of the other presentations, but things that I think are just worthy of us putting kind of this together in a capstone. So let me go ahead and start sharing the screen. There we go. So before I go too far, so I'm going to stay here. I just want to talk about at the federal level, what are the types of things that we advocate for through our national organizations, which we are members of, the National Association of Housing Redevelopment Officials, NARO, as well as CLAFA, the Council of Large Public Housing Authorities. And we engage in several different things, several different areas that really help us in terms of doing the work that we do. So one of the main things that we advocate is for an increase in the public housing portfolio and the recapitalization. As Susie was talking about, you know, we have been underfunded for many, many years. And so we're always pushing at the federal level for more funding for that. We're also looking at increased funding for our programs, you know, especially our federal programs like the HOME program and CDBG. Those are critical. That is money returns back to those local communities. And then also looking at the third thing is looking at our expanding low-income housing tax credits. So I think Cecile, you has a question there. I see you.
Where your presentation doesn't appear to be moving, or is it?
That's okay. That's okay. This is my quick overview, and then it's going to start moving really, really fast.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Like, I need to tell you that we're stuck on this one thing. See, that's to see if you're paying attention. No, I'm joking. The other one is the low-income housing tax credit program, and making sure, because that's the key that we need to continue to develop housing, expanding our housing choice voucher program, and also regulatory relief. So those are big picture things that we're always looking at. So moving on to the next slide is our federal update on housing that really deals with the president's 5-year plan to help close the housing supply. But before I get into that, one of the things that happens is that the president puts forward his budget, then the Senate puts together their budget and submits it, and the House puts together their budget, and then all of the wrangling begins. So we won't know the outcome of the actual budget until after the midterm elections. We're still operating under a continuing resolution. But what we see overall as a part of those kind of proposed budgets is there are no calls for drastic cuts. And in fact, some of those proposals are either the same level of funding or more. So this is good news compared to some years where we have seen drastic cuts in our programs. But even if we're steady state, our costs are not steady state. You know, our costs continue to increase. So it is always still a struggle in terms of bringing everything together. But in addition to the president presenting his budget overall, he also put forward a 5-year plan to help close the housing supply. He released this in May of this year, and it was an effort to ease the burden of housing costs over time. by increasing the supply of quality housing in every community. It includes legislative and administrative actions that will help with the shortfall of housing over 5 years. And it starts with the creation and preservation of hundreds of thousands of affordable units in the next 3. So it's also really geared to help renters who are struggling with high rental costs. We've seen that obviously in our jurisdiction and across the country, with a particular focus on building and preserving rental housing for low and moderate income families. And this is probably one of the most comprehensive government efforts to close the housing supply funding. And so the way that the president is proposing to do that is through our tax credits. And as I mentioned, tax credits are the main vehicle that we use to create housing. So in this particular act, it requires tax credits to expand those and to rehabilitate up to 125 units for low and middle income home buyers. It also includes a proposal for $25 billion of grants for affordable housing production. And we're really excited to see that there is a focus on that. And this housing supply grants to reduce affordable housing barriers is another thing that's in that $10 billion of HUD grants. And those barriers are things that some cities are lagging. I'm proud to say that Sacramento is really ahead as a pro-housing jurisdiction in terms of looking at our policies and our practices and making sure that they are increasing affordable housing, making it easier to develop affordable housing so that those are not things that get in the way of building housing. It also will support broader housing development activities, including environmental planning, mitigation, road infrastructure, water and sewer infrastructure. And then the last thing here is the Leveraging American Resource Plan funds for investments in affordable housing. The Treasury has urged the locals, states to dedicate more of their American Rescue Plan funds to build affordable housing, which will lower costs for our families and individuals. These include development of multifamily, single family, preservation of existing affordable housing, permanent supportive housing, all of the types of things that we're engaged in here at SHRA. So very glad to see that the administration is really focusing on these federal types of programs to increase that supply and understand how people are struggling throughout the country. The next, I'd like to turn from the federal to the state. And the state has really stepped up their game as far as housing is concerned. Governor Gavin Newsom and the legislature finalized their budget that provides $2.7 billion for homelessness and housing affordability. And this is the largest general fund allocation for housing and homelessness in California history. And there's about 18 bills that are intended to boost housing production. $650 million of that will go for new homeless housing assistance and prevention program grants. And that's specifically targeted towards rental assistance, navigation services to reduce homelessness. And that has been key in terms of funding that we have used to help stand up a lot of the homeless services in the city and the county. It also adds $500 million each to the low-income housing tax credit program and infill infrastructure grants program and CalHA's mixed income program. These are all tools that we use to really blend together to make a project go. For instance, the infill infrastructure grant, we use that on our Marisol project where there were huge infrastructure needs. And then the other area and funding is $1 billion of awards will go to shovel-ready projects through the California Housing Accelerator Program. And they're looking to create over 2,700 homes for Californians through that program. And then last but not least is $3.7 billion for home key projects. And as you know, this has been something that we have used here. We have 3 home key projects, one of which we actually were able to do a ribbon cutting last week for our project out in Natomas, Vista Nueva. The other project, La Mancha, has been in operation for a while. And then, of course, the one across the street, Central Sacramento Studios. So turning now to kind of, we have the federal, the state, and then how does it all trickle down into the programs that we focus on? And there are 5 main areas. Is our SHRA program, our emergency rental assistance, the work that we're doing through our homeless response program, continuing to try and feed the pipeline for affordable housing production, because that's the only way to really address a lot of the crisis in terms of homelessness that we see. And then our public housing conversion, RAD, and our Choice Neighborhoods Initiative, which is Marisol. So I won't go into a lot of detail, but under the emergency rental assistance program, I'll just kind of give you an update because I know Sarah had an opportunity to do a great presentation and talk about this. But there were, 2 different rounds of funding that we received under the emergency rental assistance program, and all of that came together for us to administer funds to those people out there in the community who are suffering as a result of the pandemic and really needed help, and to prevent evictions. So by the numbers, when you look at, this is the most updated numbers that we have. We received $183 million between the city and the county. The majority of that was in the county because the county is larger. And we have dispersed, says 149.5, but I'm just going to round that up to $150 million of rental assistance has gone out to support over 14,000 households. The average disbursement, as you see here, is about $10,000. And the staff has just done a tremendous job because, when you think about it, we started with no program, and we had to create and stand up an entire program and quickly get those funds out. If you look at exactly how many applications that were received, we received 57,000. Some were deemed ineligible, and that was, for various reasons. Usually it was because their situation had changed and they didn't need assistance, so that was good. But we have funded 20,000 applications. 14,000 are still pending. So our funds are nearly exhausted in the city. However, we have applied for funds, some additional funds from Treasury. We think that we'll get some funding, but it probably won't be a huge infusion like we've seen in the past to address those pending applications in the city. And in the county, we still have about 30 some odd million dollars that we can disperse. So the next slide goes into talking about preventing evictions and what we've done, and how we've really helped over 700 families avoid eviction due to the SHRA program. So it's good. Then I want to move on to homeless innovations. These are the voucher programs that really are specifically set aside for homeless individuals. We do prioritize homeless individuals on our waiting list for vouchers. But these are programs that are specifically geared to help people who are struggling. So our veteran, our BASH, we have 459 veterans through that particular program. And the good thing is that because we are using those vouchers, we have continued to receive allocations. We also administer Shelter Plus Care, 530 families. And then now the latest one, which is emergency housing vouchers. And this was HUD's effort to really give new vouchers and push those out to housing authorities. So these are the first ones that we have ever seen in terms of new vouchers that I can recall during my tenure. But we received 464, 151 families have leased up, and 270 are still out there searching. So we continue to work through these programs to make sure that we can provide services to those individuals who need it the most. The Homeless Innovations team is also responsible for the shelters that we have in the city, and there are 3: the Emergency Bridge Housing Program, which is, our transitional age youth, and then our Meadowview Navigation Center, which is for women, and then our X Street Navigation Center. So between those, you see there how many guests have been admitted through those particular programs and how many have exited into housing. Emergency Bridge Housing also too, we've just expanded and doubled that. So we probably will be accepting our newest guests there for transitional age youth. Then on our homeless programs, this is what I was referring to as our Project Home Key. I'm so proud of the work that the staff has done to really pull these off. We have leveraged an incredible amount of money from the state. They've been an excellent partner with us. You see that we have our Vista Nueva, as I was just talking about, 116 units for families with at least one child. We did the ribbon cutting, and just a quick story, while we were there, we were doing the ribbon cutting, and we're doing it in phases. So the first floor is pretty much set up and ready to go. And there was a woman who came up and was talking to us because she is going to be admitted to Vista Nuevo, and she's actually moved in. I think the next day she moved in, but she and her 7-year-old daughter were living in a van. And they she was a victim of domestic violence, and was just so appreciative that she would now have a stable place to live. And I just took such delight in taking her on a tour and showing her, the type of unit that she would be receiving. And she was just overcome with joy. So those are the types of things that keep us going and keep us motivated to do the good work here through this particular program. So we, like I said, have these 3 programs. We have Vista Nuevo, ribbon cutting, La Mancha, that's been up and running now for, over a year. We're going to do a little bit of expansion out there at La Mancha in terms of community space. We received that grant, if you remember. And then Central Sacramento Studios, which is across the street. We're looking at that as probably opening in spring of next year. So a lot of good work is going on, a lot of money being leveraged, but we're also keeping our eye on the fact that there is more home key funding. It's going to come in the spring of next year. So we have a few others that we are currently working on, and as those projects come to fruition, you'll see those as well. So great program. The next one is housing finance. This is the area that Christine does a lot of work in terms of our federal programs, as well as, making sure that we have the pipeline of projects. So you can see here how many funds have been committed in terms of our multifamily loans and mortgage revenue bonds. And then the next one shows the pipeline. And this is, how many units we've completed. Lavender Courtyard, you're going to get an opportunity to see that at our December meeting. So looking forward to it. It's absolutely gorgeous, because we will have our December meeting there. You get a chance to really see how nice that project came along. That's 53 units of senior housing. But there are other projects that we have under construction. We're showing here Mutual on the Boulevard, which is permanent supportive and workforce housing. But in terms of under construction, there's the Wong Center, the Central City, our RAD program, Villa Hardin, Mirasol, all of those are under construction for over 1,500 units. And then those that are in the pipeline, those that we're working on, which is on Broadway, it's going to be a nice development there, 140 units of permanent supportive housing. And also continuing our work on RAD is also in that category of units in the pipeline. Federal programs, we've talked about this. This is where, we're advocating to make sure that we get more CDBG or home dollars. They're key as a part of how we do the work for not only housing, but also work in the community. This is showing a outdoor fitness court that was used with those federal dollars. So for 2023, these programs provide about $10 million for the county and approximately $9.5 million for city projects. So the next one is our rental assistance program, just an absolute wonderful program that we are looking at recapitalizing our entire inventory, and we're just methodically moving through. This is the first time that I know of in my history that I've been here where we've been able to get into the interior and do the type of renovations that are necessary. So this allows us to convert from that public housing platform, as you know, over to more of a Section 8 type project-based platform. So it will take us some time, but we are methodically working through, and here's some before and after pictures of Capitol Terrace, which is one of our elderly developments located downtown. So our next one and our last one is our Choice Neighborhoods Initiative, and this is Mirasol Village. Obviously, we talked a lot about it, and I just couldn't be more excited every day when I drive in and go past Mirasol Village there. We have completed 123 households have moved back in. So we're really thrilled. A lot of the residents who were there at the original development that was demolished and were relocated temporarily for 4 years are now back in their nice new units. And it's just exciting to see the fact that we started out many, many years ago, over a decade now, with a Choice Neighborhoods Planning Grant to talk about a vision of what it could be. And I was always excited. I was always looking forward to what that vision would finally look like, but really it has exceeded my expectations. It is absolutely fabulous. We have such engagement from the residents who are there. I think at the garden, they had a pickling type of project where residents lined up to come and get their vegetables and learn how to pickle them. So I hate I missed out on that. That would have been a nice thing, but it's really coming along. So underway is construction on Block D, the Early Childhood Education Center. We're looking also to lease up those blocks A and C. And then if you look across the street, you'll see a lot of dirt. And so whenever you see a lot of dirt, that's always a good sign. That means something is happening, and that is the construction of the light rail station. So that is underway, where we will get that station in place. And I don't know how many people come in that way. There's these huge, they're wings, because remember, Mirasol, the whole theme is butterflies. So we have 2 huge monuments, public art, that are these steel wings to really show the gateway of moving into the River District. And again, couldn't be more proud of the work that's going on there. So that people, as they come into downtown, really see the transformation that is going on, and all of the hard work to turn this from just an industrial area that you just zip past, and slowing down and seeing a community coming out of the ground. So with that, concludes my presentation on our budget, and I am available for any questions you have. And again, a big thank you to all of you, because you have been a part of all of these projects when we come forward and are getting our authority to move on them. And thank you for your support, and thank you to the staff who really just work day in and day out to do fantastic work. All right.
There. Unmuted. I was just starting to say I have to agree, it's impossible to drive by there without taking the time to look and see what's happening over there. So questions of commissioners first. We'll start with Commissioner Ross. Go ahead, Martin.
Yeah, I was able to get out to the Marisol Village one a couple of months ago, I think, whenever that was. So it was really, really nice, super nice. Didn't get to make the last one, but I'm looking forward to the Lavender Gathering to see the building. So thank you for the presentation, Director Rochelle, Executive Director. So I have a couple of questions. It was really good, informative. Some of these are just to help get to know. I'm going to work my way backwards on the slide. So what you described choice neighborhood. So I mean, what makes it a choice? Is it the idea of creating where that name came from? I was just looking at the history.
Yeah, no, that's a very good question. The Choice Neighborhoods Initiative is a federal initiative. As we said, our money comes from the federal government. And it started out as a previous program that was called Hope 6. And then over time, it morphed into what they call a Choice Neighborhoods Initiative. And what they do is they give you first money for planning so that you can really re-envision housing and how it integrates into the community. So we received $300,000. And then from there, you can then apply for a choice implementation grant. And this is really where the federal government gives you seed money to really do the major transformation of public housing. And so that's what we did. We actually made an application. There were only like 5 in the country. These are very coveted and sought after grants. And so we were thrilled that we were successful on our first try and received a $30 million grant. And that's what started the ball rolling. In addition, it's not just tearing down just the public housing. What they learned over time is that you have to make investments in the people and the neighborhood. So it's not only the housing, it's the people in the neighborhood that they require you to spend some of that $30 million on. So that's how we were able to hire urban strategies who tracked every single family as they moved and were relocated, and as they come back, and work with them in their school situations. They provided money for us to do a basketball court that is off-site. They provided money for us to do all kinds of neighborhood improvements so that you don't just rebuild something, but you don't really change the neighborhood. So that's what choice neighborhoods mean.
So making it a choice, giving people a choice, basically something that people want to come to because it was transformed for the better. Okay.
Absolutely.
I like that. I was curious about that. It looks cool.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I wasn't privy. Well, I kind of saw what it looked like before, but I mean, I know the railroad area, River District, it wasn't cool. So that's pretty good. When I went out there, there were people biking into there just to see what it was like, and you know, maybe they could, you know, eventually get there or something. But anyway, they were excited about it. They were just neighborhood people, which was good, which was really good. My second question had to do with the mutual on Boulevard. Is that what it's called? I don't maybe. Yeah. So permanent supportive housing, but then workforce housing. I haven't heard that term before, and that sounds good. Why is it called workforce housing? What's the criteria for that?
So workforce housing is housing that we refer to for people who need some level of assistance. It's not as deep a subsidy, and they're usually earning higher income, but they could be working and still need affordable housing. So it could be someone who, let's say, has a job as working as a barista at Starbucks, you know, and so that's kind of what we refer to as workforce housing. It's affordable housing for those who still need some level of assistance. And Mutual on the Boulevard, it is one of those particular projects that has a mix of permanent supportive and workforce housing. So
Okay, so they have to be working to be in there?
they'll have an income that falls in those brackets. Correct.
Okay, great. I'm also excited about the home key idea. You know, there's a lot of, no, actually, I thought the hotel that was in the Natomas area was a pretty good one, I think. I used to be over there. Wasn't dilapidated, but sold and converted. But I like the idea of, there's a lot of, you know, like the El Rancho or the ones that you see on the side. I hope there's more conversions of those to give people like a better choice. You know, they have to live there. They're living there anyway. But that was just a comment that I'm just excited about.
I think it's a really great comment, because the reason that we were able to convert it for families, because it was very unique in the fact that it had studios, it had 1 bedrooms, it had 2 bedrooms, 2 bath units. And that's rare that you'll see that in a hotel conversion. And it was in such pristine condition, it was a quicker, you know, rehab.
Right. It wasn't very old.
No.
Yeah, maybe 10, 15 years old, I think, maybe less. That's great. My next question, and I just got 2 more, sorry about that, folks. But it had to do with the 14,000 folks that were pending and maybe not enough funding happening. You know, where might they go? What is that situation going to create for them? Is there any kind of relief? And then the other question, as they're going back on the slides, that was before this first one. And maybe I wasn't catching the numbers right, but at the top it said 2.7 billion. And then I believe at the bottom it had like 3.8 something billion, and I was just trying to add up the numbers where there's, because the header said 2.7 billion, and then there was a 650 million and a 500 million, and then the 3 million below. And I was just trying to figure out how those numbers added up, and was that were those separate projects, or maybe I didn't read it right.
So I'll deal with the first next question, which was regarding, no, the 14,000. So yeah, where we stand now is that we do feel very good about those applications that are pending in the county, because we have about 33, I think it is $34 million left. So we'll continue to process those. However, in the city, you know, we'd be lucky if we receive maybe $1 million more, and we have many more applications than we have funding for. So we really don't foresee that we're going to get a large infusion of dollars. And so we don't have an answer, you know, in terms of, you know, what's going to happen, or what is going to be the outcome and situation for those particular families. I know that this is of concern to our elected officials in the city, who is trying to figure out, is there some other avenue or way that we can provide a level of assistance? But that's really where we stand right now.
So without any assistance, would they be evicted, or I mean, I don't know what's on the horizon from the.
That's a possibility if they're not able to work out any type of repayment agreements with their landlord, and start to repay those back funds over time. We did work with SMUD in terms of utility payments. And SMUD also had a program that helped with people who were behind on utility payments. But yes, it's a very unfortunate situation.
Okay, hopefully they'll find something. I think the recession coming may not help the situation, but if it is coming, I hope it's not coming. So we'll definitely prayers. And then
Okay, and then, yeah, I'm going back to that particular slide.
Thank you for that. 14. Ooh, prayers. Yeah.
The state.
Yeah.
Let's see. So I thought I remember it was on the slide talking about state. So it was 2.7, and then, oh, I see what you're saying. And then 3.7 billion for the home key projects. I think it's the 2.7 is for all of the programs absent the home key. I think that's what it is. So remember, it says 2.7 billion for homeless. I can bring the slide up if you'd like.
Okay.
I think I can. Oh, there we go, right there. So the 2.7 billion, I think that includes the 650, the 500, and the 1 billion. If my math is starting to get me there, is that correct?
Yeah, that'll get you too.
It's a little short, but close. Yeah, closer. I was kind of doing that.
And
I
then,
just thought since that was the top heading.
yeah,
Maybe
no, that's a good catch.
Yeah.
I'm sure if you didn't see that, then Commissioner Nunley would have. That was on her list to let us know.
Yeah.
No, that's
okay, but maybe that top number is supposed to be a little larger, and it's summing up all those, because all these projects come under the something billions for homelessness and housing affordability, right? It's just,
yes.
Okay. I just wanted to check, maybe see if something happened. Okay, that's all. So it's more money than 2.7 billion. So it's more.
It's to err on the side of more money.
Okay, all right. Thank you. That's all for me. Thank you. Very good.
All right.
Good questions.
I have a quick question on that same slide. How much of the state money is dependent upon the voters now through November 2nd?
The money that was on that slide is the budget that the state has already passed. The legislature passed and the governor signed.
Okay, I wasn't sure if some of that was potential money or not.
Yeah, the federal money is on that side of the equation, is the potential, because, you know,
Right.
It just takes a while.
I know there's a lot of measures on the ballot dealing with state money, some of it for housing this go around. So
Yeah, that's not included in this amount.
I'm sure you're advocating for the passage of each of those.
I do not take a position on any of those.
Okay. That's fair. In this venue, I won't either.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, was there public comment on this item, Amber?
We have no public comments.
Okay. So I will accept a motion to adopt the resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Stark, second by Nunley.
Okay. Chair Morgan,
Aye.
Vice Chair Manfor,
Aye.
Commissioner Duncan,
Aye.
Commissioner Nunley,
Aye.
Commissioner Osmany,
Aye.
Commissioner Ramos,
Aye.
Commissioner Ross. Did we lose him? Okay. And then welcome Commissioner Stajabu
Aye.
and Commissioner Starks.
Yes, that was kind of a nice little, thing. I got an eye from Stajabu and also her nomination. That was kind of slick there. Very good. You got my yes, right?
Yes. And I'm missing Ross though. Is he? Oh, he's here. Was that Ross? Did you want to vote on this?
He stepped away. He probably is going to be yes, but is there a way to hold it or depend it or?
If he comes.
There he is.
There he
There he
is. Oh, you're
on
muted.
mute.
It'd be TMI if I had to tell you.
So are you an eye on this?
Okay, I could not.
Oh,
You're
you're
on
muted. You're muted again.
You're on mute.
Okay, could you repeat because I needed to step
Yes, so
away.
we are doing the roll call vote for approving the resolution for the budget. We need your
Oh,
vote.
okay. Yes.
Okay, all right.
I'm an aye for it.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much. With that, we'll move on to the executive director's report.
Okay, just a few things to report. Our next meeting date is scheduled for November 2nd via teleconference. And then a quick update on the commission room. The camera system repair should be completed by this Friday, at which point we'll begin testing to make sure they're ready for our future meetings. So we're glad that that is moving along. The other thing is I also mentioned previously is save the date for the holiday party has been sent out. It's scheduled for December 7th at 4 p.m. at Lavender Courtyard. We'll have some cater, a little dinner and some desserts there. So really looking forward to an opportunity to see you in person after quite some time, but also more importantly, to see one of our developments. And then the next thing is tomorrow at Ileton Museum is having a grand opening. And it is planned for phase 2 construction to house the museum inside the Bing Kong Tong building on Main Street. It's tomorrow at 11 a.m. 29 Main Street in Ileton. So if you happen to be in the neighborhood, please stop by. And we've been working on that particular building for quite some time. I think it goes even back to 2014, a huge restoration project that has a lot of historical, cultural, and architectural contributions from our early Chinese settlers in the Sacramento River Delta. So if you have an opportunity, please stop by. And that's all that I have.
All right, thank you. Comments, announcements, questions of commissioners?
I
Sure.
won't be able to make it to the museum tomorrow, but I can let you guys know that I'm pretty sure Supervisor Natoli will be there though.
Yes, I talked to him earlier this week and he was like, I'll see you there. And I was like, I'll be there.
He will be there.
Good, thank you.
Someone's got to hold down the fort.
Yes.
Bye.
Okay, anything else? including
Yeah.
wedding announcements, baby announcements. Martin, go ahead.
Yeah, quick question. So we have a meeting on the 2nd. Will we have the meeting, let's see, what's that date?
16th.
Yeah, the 16th?
Yes, we still have, we are still planning to have the meeting on the 16th. It may change, but I will let you know in advance.
Okay, I was
Yeah.
just trying to line up just to make sure. So
Yes, please
you-
keep that on your calendar because we do
Okay.
have some items for that particular meeting as well.
Thank you.
You don't need to hold the 21st of December open though.
You don't want to hang out with us on December 21st.
It probably wouldn't happen, right?
That is correct.
Any other comments, questions, wedding announcements, babies? Okay.
Lachelle, thank you to your staff. You guys are doing a great job. Keep up the good work. Just wanted to share that.
Thank you, Commissioner Starks.
And I'd like to apologize for my lateness because I hate being late. But I had my sister visiting from Georgia, and my daughter took a wrong turn coming back from our meeting place, and it was harrowing. So I'm glad to be here, and thank you for the budget presentation. Look, what I heard was great. I had already read it, so looked like you have a lot of work in store. Thank you, Lachelle.
Oh, you're welcome. And so glad that you made it back safely.
We thought maybe you had Georgia on your mind.
Okay, let's go.
Enough, Gail, enough.
All right. If there's nothing else,
Cracking jokes.
we will be adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for being here.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Got jokes. All right, Jerry Lewis.